Administrator, last year the Department of Homeland Security established the Southwest Border Coordination Center to, quote, coordinate planning, operations, engagement, and interagency support. The President's fiscal year 2024 budget request includes $4.7 billion, with a B, for the Southwest Border Contingency Fund to respond to migration surges along the Southwest border. Given that Secretary Mayorkas has repeatedly stated that there is not a crisis at the Southwest border, why is FEMA being included in the Southwest Border Contingency Fund?
Congressman, Chairman, first, I just want to clarify and make it for the record that FEMA is not an immigration agency. We do follow congressional direction in the program that we do have that supports the Emergency Food and Shelter Program for humanitarian efforts, and now the Shelter and Services Program, SSP. We do support the President's budget, and we did participate in the development of that request, which does include, as you stated, $4.7 billion for the DHS Border Contingency Fund. Depending on the conditions and the dynamic nature of the border, what that contingency fund also provides is up to $800 million that could be available to FEMA to support our Shelter and Services Program. This would be the same level as fiscal year 23.
Okay, thank you. On to sort of a different topic. On May 15th, a bipartisan group of 51 members of Congress, including myself and Majority Leader Steve Scalise, sent a letter requesting a briefing and documents related to the National Flood Insurance Program's Risk Ratings 2.0. To date, your agency has not produced any responsive documents, and even though we anticipated receiving a briefing last month, your staff now indicates they may not provide the briefing, citing ongoing litigation. Ongoing litigation is not a basis for refusing to provide a briefing to Congress. When can you anticipate that your staff will provide the responsive documents and the requested briefing?
Chairman, I will certainly follow up with my staff when we return back to the office.
Thank you.
I need to understand their point, but it's not acceptable that we haven't gotten back to you, and I'll make sure that we take care of that when we get back.
Thank you. I appreciate that. During the prior Congress, when Democrats controlled the House, FEMA produced documents at least 27 times to the Select COVID Subcommittee. Many of those productions had multiple subparts and were produced on a regular basis. Really, the question is, we need to make sure that that May 15th request receives the same attention that it did for requests prior. So I just ask that when you get back to the office, if you could follow up with that, we'd really appreciate it.
You have my commitment on that, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Let me see. A couple minutes left. So I also serve on transportation and infrastructure. And we had a hearing in May when I asked Deputy Administrator Hooks about the dwindling disaster relief fund. Mr. Hooks estimated that the DRF would be facing a shortfall by the end of this summer, so just really, I guess, a month or month and a half away. In your estimation, when will the DRF run out of money?
Chairman, we recently submitted our report to Congress on the balance of the funds for the end of June or through the end of June, and right now we anticipate a shortfall towards the mid and end of August.
Okay. And now, what are the plans moving forward with that shortfall to still protect vulnerable coastal communities like Long Island?
The Disaster Relief Fund, as we continue to go into the last quarter, is always a very dynamic situation, and the balances continue to change. We are monitoring it very closely and working with the administration on a very continuous basis so we can understand when we are going to approach a potential deficit and what tools we might have to implement to ensure that we will always have the funding available to respond to events like we just saw in Vermont.
Okay, thank you. All right. I'm going to yield back my time.